Well, hello friends and neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome to my deck. Today I want to talk about a classic in the bourbon world. This is Elijah Craig. This will be Elijah Craig small batch review. Oh, thanks for staying with me through that opener. As I said, I want to talk to you about a recognizable, quite available bourbon. And this is Elijah Craig. It is the small batch. This is the one that has no age stamp at all on it. It is, bottled at 47%. Small batch, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey with no age stamp. How old is it? None of us really know. I hear rumors around the 8-year mark, 8 to 10 in that range. But I imagine it might almost, they must have come up with a flavor balanced blend that could have all the way up to 12-year in it, since they were releasing this, at 12 years for so long. I think it was somewhere around 2016 that Heaven Hill is the distillery behind Elijah Craig, really saw that their stocks were that they were popular. That Elijah Craig 12 was popular, and they were running out of stocks. Now I have a bottle. I'm going to talk about it later on the back end of this review to see if I notice a change between these two bottles. But this small batch has been out now for quite some time, and I think it's barrel proof. Gets a little more love in the whiskey universe. Sadly, I have not seen that bottle on any shelves here in the Alberta region. So if it's been on shelves, I've somehow missed it. I asked after that bottle, I think it was a couple years ago, that Whiskey Advocate put the barrel proof version of this as like their whiskey of the year. Anyways, Elijah Craig, I think really makes a comment right on the bottle that Elijah Craig was known, I thought he was I was going to say monk, but that's not quite right, like a priest of some kind, but he's known like first to char oak barrels. He's really known, or they brag him up as way back in the past, the first to take, hey, let's take this good distillate, high corn bourbon distillate, and put it in charred oak. So hopefully some of that comes across. This Elijah Craig, I don't know what else to share about it. I'll put the exact mash bill down below. My mind will say it's, I should do some quick math, but I can't right now. It's somewhere around that 12-15% rye is what stands out more in my mind. And then enough, barley in there. So probably again around that 12, they're probably very similar, 12 to 15%. And the balance somewhere in those high 60s would be corn. I'll put the specific down below, but that's what my mind tends to watch is the rye amount, or if you're not using rye, the wheat amount, because the rest seems to be fairly consistent, right? High corn in a straight bourbon. So what its age is, I don't know. It's probably a mix of a variety of bourbons from 8 to 12. That's a huge range, but it's probably a nice blend. Bottled at 47%. Let's see how she smells and tastes. I find the nose on small batch quickly a little bit spicy, cinnamon spice, and then sweetness of vanilla and caramel and sugars come up pretty quick. I think as I nose it, so spice for me is almost first, and then quite a bit of sugar and caramels and cooked things, and then a bit of fruits. And the fruit would be, oh boy, what is that? I think maybe a cherry. Pretty common bourbon nose, really. This cherry is pretty sweet, so either a very ripe cherry or something like a candied cherry. Yeah. Oh, I thought I'd have some oak in there. I'm not really getting it much on the nose. See how she tastes. Nice flavors, a little bit bitey at first, so almost peppery at first. A little spice, but not pepper like a strong punchy pepper. I said that. More like that strong cinnamon. That I would say like baking spices, but a little sharper, a little fresher, a little more something spicy. And then, yeah, boy, the palate really echoes the nose. Now I'm right into those caramelized sugars, vanillas. More spice back on the nose. More cinnamon, not spice. Palate's a little raw, bites a little bit. But the flavor there at now the second sip, I was already getting at the end of the first sip. You do get at the oaks and the wood and the char and like a light smoke that kind of runs through it. And I find that the finish lengthens out. The fruit characteristics get a bit lost in this one for me. And it stays pretty close to a typical bourbon corn. I haven't mentioned that yet. So maybe a kettle corn. Yeah, a kettle corn, a cooked caramelized corn that's a little bit cinnamon sugar crack. And then finally with some time we get a little more of that oak and char coming in. So not bad. Not bad at all. Just on itself, a couple of things. If you're in the Edmonton area, like I know a fellow and he's in St. Albert, but taxes included, sits on a shelf at $38. That's a really, really good deal for this bottle. Just about everywhere else, it's somewhere around the $50 mark, which makes it a good bourbon, but not an amazing bourbon. $50 is quite a bit to pay. So in the 38, this is a great thing, and it's easily for me a 3.5, pushing into 4, but really something's holding it back. Now I'm going to pause, which I never do, and get some water. I have to clear my palate. Oh, sorry for that, but I really do want to on camera. Of course, I've done this to myself or with others, but I want to see what I'm getting compared to the Elijah Craig with the age stamp 12. So this bottle has not been open since 2016 when they canceled it. I think our distribution chain in Canada is quite a bit slower than US. And I had this, I was able to purchase this even heading into this year. Now that honey pot's finally dried up. So this bottle isn't fresh, but it's not as old as you might think. This is the one that's still 47% Elijah Craig Heaven Hill product, but it is right on the front, 12 years old. So we'll see kind of differences today, anyways. Okay, so the nose for me, I don't know how to get these bottles out of the way. So the nose for me, there is a significant deeper fruit note on this one. This one is a mix for me between, as I said, that cherry, but now with a bit of apple in there. And the spice isn't that light, just kind of bounce on your tongue cinnamon. Now it's baking spices, stuff that you when you're cooking a pie, those kind of spices. Now the bottle has been open longer. Nose is a little smoother, even like the acetone or the ethanol. Just those bright alcohols really aren't coming up. Nose is better. See how it tastes. So on the palate, I'm definitely getting the oak earlier. Part of that could be power of suggestion. Right now I know it has an age stamp, must be more oaky. But I feel in this moment even that the whole experience is it's not subtle. It's still 47% bourbon, but it just the flavors are very similar. They just seem to be just cooked together a little longer. Now I know that's almost like a cop out. Well, yeah, it has an age stamp, but if I try to go after it, the nose, that one thing for me is that it's a little more fruit forward. The rest is just that it's less alcohol present. And in the palate, it's just like it's just the wood comes a little quicker. The smoke and char is there just a little bit more. But it's almost that it fills my mouth better, or I would drink this quicker. I wouldn't want to, but what I mean is the finish is more pleasantly drying, gets ready for that next sip. It just is a little better. Now that's not to say, so this is for sure, the 12-year-old for me is easily a 4-star. Coming back to just the small batch. I know, I should clear it. Yeah, a little orange peel this time in this one. It runs hot. It just runs a little hotter and a little quicker into cinnamon, whereas this just it's just, I don't know, coats a little better, a little fuller. Boy, sometimes something like, I would hope I would be able to recognize the difference between these, but I might not. The flavors are actually very, very similar. They just seem to be melded together. They run in your mouth better. They express themselves in a more pleasing kind of, it's going down well, the oak is there in the 12-year-old than in the small batch. Not to say the small batch isn't a great bourbon. I think it is. I think it's a fine bourbon. It just runs a little hot, a little more kind of light pepper, lots of cinnamon. The fruit's farther back and the oak is harder to find. But the flavors are actually very, very similar. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that small batch. So if that's all you can find, I think it's still worth, it's still that, not bottom tier, not crazy amazing bourbon. It's just good bourbon that I think you could mix if you want to mix, or sip if you're looking for something good in the night, but something bold because it's a bourbon. Look, thanks for joining me on the deck. Sorry I couldn't really fine point the difference between these two more for you, but I like Elijah Craig. I do, and I'm okay with the small batch. You guys take care.